Litter is a problem that all of us face. Litter is pervasive. I don't care whether you're in a small community, a rural community, or a big city. We all have to deal with litter. Litter is a human problem, and ultimately it's soluble. It's a matter of changing human behavior. And so whether it's a small amount of litter you might see in a parking lot or an illegal dump site, all of this litter has one thing in common. It's really just one rainfall away from starting its journey to the Gulf of Mexico and then to the global ocean. And it doesn't have to be Hurricane Francine, which you fortunately missed last week here in Baton Rouge. It can just be a thunderstorm. But it starts to move that material off the streets into our stormwater systems. For most of you, that means a trip down the Mississippi River. Here in Baton Rouge, it takes a slightly different route. Our stormwater, and that's right after the hurricane, our stormwater takes a path east through Lake Pontchartrain, but it all winds up in the same place, in the Gulf of Mexico, on our barrier islands. That's a barrier island that's only accessible by boat. People don't go there recreationally, so all that material was washed up. It accumulates in the deep sea, in the open ocean, and it has adverse impacts on marine life.
Theme for this meeting is addressing persistent and damaging pollution, expanding infrastructure solutions. And so we talked a lot about plastic pollution over the past several MRCTI meetings. We know the Mississippi River drains 41% of the continental U.S. Plastics, of course, easily make their way to storm drains and tributaries to the Mississippi, the Gulf of Mexico, ultimately ending up in the ocean and on the shores of islands all over the world. We know it's a global problem. In April, I was in Ottawa participating in INC4, that's the Intergovernmental Negotiating Committee fourth session, effort to develop an international binding instrument on plastic pollution. INC5, I think as I mentioned yesterday, is in South Korea in November. As mayors of Mississippi River cities, we are again asserting our commitment and reaffirming the crucial role of the local level in holistically addressing plastic pollution crisis through source reduction of single-use plastics first and foremost. Also critical of circular economy approach by a blended responsibility of manufacturers, retailers, consumers, and public sector actors. Now currently, the brunt of the responsibility for cleanup lies with local government and taxpayers. It's unbalanced, it's inequitable, it's unsustainable, and takes the responsibility of cleanup away from the manufacturers of the plastics. Local governments can lead the way toward a new, larger partnership that broaden responsibility, enlist more expertise, rely on new policy and processes, and ultimately reduce the reliance and concentration of plastic waste throughout our society and economy. And MRCTI is in an exclusive position representing the vast portion of the middle of the U.S., the portion that often lags behind in plastic reduction action and policy, yet MRCTI has shown that action does happen when approached with community-based solutions facilitated through trust, collaboration, and mutual goals, as will be featured by our upcoming panelists representing industry, government, and community. So, to get things started, I will hand it off to Jenny Wendt.
Just to give you a little bit of background on the Mississippi River Plastic Pollution Initiative, this was kicked off in 2019 at the MRCTI annual meeting in Memphis, where MRCTI signed on to the United Nations Environment Program Clean Seas campaign to try to focus on reducing plastic pollution in the Mississippi River. And as you all know, and I'll say it again, the Mississippi River drains 40% of the continental U.S., so if a piece of litter is dropped in Montana, it could make its way through storm drains and tributaries to the Mississippi River, to the Gulf and the ocean. So we really needed to draw awareness to how even us in the middle of the country can contribute globally to the problem and can also offer solutions. So when we started the collaboration, we said, okay, we're gonna go to 3 pilot cities, St. Paul, St. Louis, and Baton Rouge, and we're going to collect data on what we're finding in the environment. And I was tasked to find 3 organizations in each of those cities to champion this. Between those three cities, we found over 150 partners. There was so much interest. I mean, the biggest problem we had was trying to keep up with it with this little baby project. We collected about 140,000 pieces of litter data, the top three items being cigarette butts, beverage bottles, and food wrappers. So with this information, we needed to go to work. And so the most important thing that I've found with getting anything done is collaboration. And so there's groups that say, oh, well, don't talk to industry because they're the problem. And then there's other groups that say, oh, the consumer's the problem. And there's people that always point fingers, but it doesn't matter who started the problem. What we have now is to find the solutions and work together. So I'm really excited about this panel here because it's made up of local government, industry, NGOs, and the community, and I'm really, really excited about that.
We have 3 pillars that we support and invest in. The first is recycling, so we are adding dozens of access points and infrastructure across the United States. We're also kicking off national education campaigns to youth, and we are doing deep dives in targeted cities for education campaigns as well. Our second strategy is around waterways and watershed management, which is why MRCTI is of particular interest to me and to our team. As part of that work, we're actually restoring 100 million gallons of water to the Colorado River. We're planting 125,000 trees across the United States. And we're restoring 7 miles of the Rio Grande. So we've got some really important work that we're doing just in 2024. Those commitments will renew and expand in 2025.
We know we make liquid. We have to put our liquid products into containers. And so we have to be part of the solution in how those containers are managed. And we take that seriously. Part of what we're doing as a beverage industry is really trying to ensure that recyclable materials, including our bottles and cans, don't end up in landfills or in nature, like the Mississippi River region. So how are we doing that? And we're starting with how we design our plastic bottles. They are designed to be 100% recyclable containers. The PET we use is the highest grade plastic there, and we're using that plastic for a reason because we've also advanced in the technology, working with suppliers, that if we get those bottles back, those plastic bottles back, we can and will and are turning them into new bottles made out of 100% recycled PET. So that means we're using less virgin PET, and there's more collection and control of the materials to help ensure it doesn't end up in the environment.
Litter and litter abatement continues to be an issue that I think all of us deal with as mayors, some a little bit more than others. But it is certainly a high topic of conversation in our community. So a couple of years ago, I engaged on a contractual relationship, an individual to serve pretty much as our litter guru, if you would, someone who would help us move forward in our abatement efforts. She spent a lot of time interviewing different organizations, community organizations, neighborhood leaders, et cetera, to find out what they thought some of the root causes of litter in our community are. That evolved into a commission, which was led actually, and still is, by the editor of our local paper here, The Advocate. And because she had an enormous passion to deal with litter. And so we developed the Brighten Up Baton Rouge campaign, which has included promotional information as well as trash receptacles throughout the city. And most recently, this past Saturday, to connect our citizens more with resources and give them the tools to strengthen their neighborhoods, we held a neighborhood convention. And of course, litter and blight were one of the topics of conversation once again, but we had over 500 registrations for this convention, and as a result, I believe that the individuals who were there now have tools and resources to help empower their community.
A plastic bottle in Montana that hits the ground could make its way through storm drains and tributaries to the Mississippi River, to the Gulf, and to the ocean. So that's just one spot. And we have tributaries all over this country. So everything drains through our storm drains, tributaries in the Mississippi River and to the Gulf. It's a huge problem. It's a massive problem.